Lilith in the birth chart is where we are rejected and where we reject things, where you are untamed, where you will not conform, and where we carry our wounds around power. It's also where we can reclaim our power when we stop letting shame hold us back. We're diving into Lilith through the first 6 houses and how it shows up in your identity, relationships, and your everyday life. If you have Lilith in one of these houses, I know that you've felt this energy, so let's get into it. In the first house, you walk into a room and people notice. You have this intense, magnetizing, almost unsettling presence about you, even if you don't realize it. Growing up, you were probably told that you are too much and you need to tone it down and just pipe down. Lilith here brings a strong sense of self, but also a deep wound around just like feeling like you were judged for just existing. Here's how it shows up. People probably project onto you. They either love you or they hate you based on their own thoughts about themselves, or struggle with self-image, are hyper aware of how you're perceived, and showing up for yourself means that you are embracing the fact that people are not always going to like you. Not everyone is going to understand you, and when you realize that and you step into your own power, you become unstoppable. You know the world has tried to shrink you, but you were not meant to be small. Okay, Lilith in the second house, rebellion in self-worth and money. Your relationship with self-worth and money is not traditional. This placement can bring struggles with financial security or material possessions, or being shamed for simply just what you desire. Maybe you've been told that you want too much or that you should settle for less, but you were not meant to play small. You weren't meant to have small things. You were designed to have a lot of stuff. Shows up in feeling like you have to fight for financial independence or prove your worth. Usually unconventional ways of making money, the 9 to 5 is simply not going to work for you. And learning that your desires are valid, whether it's for luxury, freedom, or both, is so important. And that is what you're here. Like, it's how you heal your wound. You don't need to justify what makes you feel secure. And when you stop letting other people define your worth, you unlock your power. Now, Lilith in the third house, the defiant voice. You've probably been told to watch your mouth. This placement gives you a sharp mind and this like defiance against authority, and you use your words to say so. You have an unfiltered way of speaking and a tendency to challenge people, but this comes with wounds around being silenced or misunderstood. It shows up in feeling like your voice doesn't matter or like you have to fight to be heard. So you either hold your thoughts back or you go full throttle with no filter. People probably find your words controversial, but that's because you speak the truth. Your voice was never meant to be tamed, and the more that you own it, the more power you have. It's all right to let go of the shame of having a smart mouth. Lilith in the fourth house. This is the house of breaking family cycles. This one hits very deep. This is the house of home roots and emotional security. And if you have Lilith here, it likely means that there is a wound around feeling like you are an outsider in your own family. A wound around control or family dynamics. You are probably the black sheep who didn't fit the mold that your family set for you. Maybe emotional security was never given, so you learn to protect yourself at all costs. It shows up in struggles with trust and emotional vulnerability, so you don't let people in. Feeling like you had to parent yourself or break generational patterns, learning to build your own definition of home and one that actually feels safe. Lilith here teaches you that your past does not define you and you get to rewrite the story. Probably need a lot of therapy in the area of learning to remake your memories. Hypnotherapy, somatic practices. I'm not a doctor. Honestly, we could all use that. Lilith in the fifth house, the wild, creative, and forbidden desire. This is pure, untamed self-expression, but society does not always make space for that. This is the house of creativity and pleasure and self-expression, and Lilith here means that you probably have a wound around creativity and joy and just being fun. You might have been shamed for being too much when you fully expressed yourself or shared your passions. Your own personal brand of creativity was probably discouraged when you were growing up. It shows up in fear of fully expressing yourself because of past judgment or feeling like your creativity or your sexuality or your passions were wrong in some way. Like the way that you feel happiness is incorrect. Claiming this power through pleasure and play in the way that you do it and not in the way that is just acceptable. When you stop dimming your light, you become magnetic to your own desires. When you own your art, you own yourself. Lilith in the sixth house, the rebel, worker, and body sovereignty. This shakes everything up when it comes to work, routines, and control. You are not meant to follow a rigid structure of a daily life or obeying authority just simply for the sake of that's what you're supposed to do. you can't wrap your brain around that. There's probably a lot of power struggles when it comes to your work or just the structure of your day. Routines that feel restrictive, or even health related problems that show up and force you to reclaim your own health and body. It shows up in authority issues at work. You don't do well being micromanaged. A love-hate relationship with structure. You need it, but you hate it. You want it to be on your own terms. You might struggle with your health and body and your self-image because you feel disconnected to your body. Your power lies in redefining what health and wellness and work and structure means to you. Even if it's not the way that everybody else does it, you just have to find out what works for you and accepting the fact that it's okay that it doesn't work. Lilith in the first 6 houses is deeply personal, and this is the area of life where you feel rejected or rebellion and where you feel a lot of shame. But if you can let go of the shame around these areas of your life, then you can reclaim your power. And do you know where your Lilith placement is? What house is it in? What is your experience so far with your Lilith placement been? How has it shown up in your life? And stay tuned for part 2, where we're going to break down houses 7 through 12.